Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Vivian Chavez, and I'm part of the Eventbrite team. My focus is helping creators connect to each other in this community forum where you can Skillshare and learn in the chat and comments, as well as providing you with tools and resources to help up-level right now what many of you are doing, which is virtual events. I am so thrilled today. I am joined by Phil Libin, who's the co-founder and CEO of All Turtles and we're going to dive into that incredible product and start talking a little bit about what it can do to help you. We've been getting a ton of requests from event creators since so many as of us have gone virtual to figure out how we can have better video. I think a lot of people dialing in today are event creators, but I know that pretty much everyone here has been an attendee of an online event, and you've experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly during the pandemic. So you know what it's like to feel really engaged and inspired by content, and then also sometimes to sit through something that might be a little bit more difficult to get through and less engaging. And so we are here today to support you in having the best virtual events that you possibly can have. And I am, like I said, so excited to have Phil here. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up. We are in the honor or in the presence of just someone incredible. So in addition to a really amazing background, if you don't know Phil, Google him after this. He's very cool. He started All Turtles in 2017 to create products that address real world problems using cutting edge technology. And is a new app that they created during the pandemic to make video communication more clear and compelling. A lot of people here who are tuning in are already users and looking for some new tips and tricks. And some people have never heard of it. Do you want to just give us the little elevator pitch of what does?
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to, you said we were in the presence of someone great. I was trying to figure out who you were talking about.
Looking around behind you.
Kind of looking around. Yeah, what? Yeah, really, really, really nice to be here. Sure. I mean, I'll give it a quick spiel for people who may not know what it is. Basically, we make a product that's called and our 1 second pitch is that it's instant weekend update. So we'll make it easy for people to make this kind of cognitively straightforward video style to just be less boring on video. And the idea is it works wherever you show up on video. So it'll work with really all the video platforms. So you can use it for meetings like, with Zoom or WebEx or whatever, or for streaming or for recording or for making presentations. So, wherever you need to be on video. And the idea is that being on video is very non-ergonomic. It's very tiring for most people. Most people are really bad at it. It's really easy to feel like an anonymous head in a box. And we started working on it, as you said, in May, a couple of months after lockdown. We all started working distributed back in March, and the first couple of months weren't that boring because they were, they're really scary. They were terrified. Like the first couple of months, you're like, are we all going to die? What's going to happen to the world?
You're just refreshing any source of news that you can. You don't care what it looks like.
Right. And so, but that's at least like being fully terrified at least isn't boring. But then 2 months into it, the immediate just sheer panic had subsided. And we were like, okay, we're being productive. Everything's fine. But everything was so tedious. And so we just started goofing around originally as a joke. Just we never intended to launch it as a product, and then it just kind of went from there. So the main idea is you pick the room you want to be in. We have lots of different environments. You can use your actual background, like you're doing, or you've got a few hundred actual, and you can mix and match like you're doing, real and virtual. You can we've got a whole bunch of different vertical backgrounds. We made this one for Pi Day last week. I think it was last week.
I love that. You are a pie. You are one of the pies.
Yeah. And we have more serious, if you need to be, a very serious person, you can do stuff like this. If you need to have deep thoughts and this kind of stuff. Some of them are, just more whimsical than others. I've been liking this one lately. This is my very relaxing, Norwegian or Arkansas.
Because you might want to be there. I feel like when I look at that background, I'm like, I want to put myself in that background just to feel like I'm somewhere else.
It is really nice.
I love that.
And then I have a screen and show stuff. And so originally we were just using this to show off Instagram photos. I've got I used to go to Japan a lot. So I've got an Instagram feed full of pictures I took of just funny sounding things in Japan. I gave away these bath salts to like all of my employees at one point, where I was just like, I would just have a stack of them on my desk, and then if somebody was like really like nervous or freaking out, I'd be like, look, I would like reach in and like take it, and I'd be like,
And
it's
everything will be
okay,
fine.
go home, relax, everything's going to be fine. And it was,
Oh my goodness.
Japan has all sorts of stuff like this. Um, and then I can do slides, so I can just like pop up quick text slides that I can just type right in. These are auto adjusting, so as I change my room, like the slides automatically like look nice. So
Yeah.
to like futz around with fonts and templates and stuff. We have like lots of different effects.
And I think, you touched on a couple of things that obviously is like one tech solution. And at Eventbrite, we're lucky enough to get to see this huge landscape of creators who are approaching things in different ways and using different technologies. But there's some core challenges that everyone is facing. One is that a lot of us were not virtual event experts when the pandemic hit. So many people had never hosted a virtual event, and they suddenly had to pivot their real life class, their real life conference, their music event, and come online. And we're not necessarily graphic designers. And so I think one of the things that you just mentioned about it auto adjusting is the amount of time I've spent trying to get fonts right in the slide deck is maddening. And the way that you just clicked it, it just did it for you.
Yeah, and the only thing that's worse, much, much, much worse than wasting a lot of time like getting fonts right in a slide deck for video, the only thing worse than that is like not doing it and like not realizing that that's the thing that's important. I think that's where a lot of the problem came from, is like most people who were decent at our jobs in the before times had figured out how to be like semi charismatic and presentable and professional in person. Like we just, we had like a few decades of practice. And then we went on video, and it's like none of us knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of sucks on video, or at least everyone that I was doing video calls with. And that was the inspiration, was like I kind of thought, well, not everyone is terrible on video. Like there's entire industries of like actors and musicians and athletes that are like that know how to be engaging on video. So like, what do they know, and how do we give everyone else that same vocabulary without requiring them to have like a photo team and post editing and all this other stuff. So we were trying to make this a performance tool.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And one of the things that all of these people on camera have are these teams who are making them look good and taking away the mental load of having to figure this out, especially as you're live streaming. And so I think going back to the event creators that we've been talking to, they want to have something that's easy to use and not stressful, and also make their presentations more engaging. I want to say thank you to everyone who filled out the RSVP survey and told us a little bit about what you were hoping to learn today. By and far, there were so many folks who said, I want to be more engaging. I want things to look better, and I have no idea where to start. And one of the reasons we decided to host this webinar is it's just been such a fantastically simple way. I know that even a lot of teachers have been using the product to try to be more engaging. They're stuck online with their students, oftentimes who are younger, and it's very difficult to keep their attention. And this tool's been really useful for them. Can you talk a little bit about how folks have used it not only to look a little bit more polished, but to start engaging their audiences more proactively?
I think the main philosophy behind all this is we call it IRL plus, which stands for like in real life plus. Like we want to be the plus, better than what you can just do in real life. And the concept here is like, rather than thinking of video as a poor substitute for doing something live and kind of being like, oh, teaching over video isn't as good as teaching live, so like why bother? Or maybe I'll try to make it almost as good. Like you can't make it almost as good. Almost as good is a waste of time, and it's really hard to achieve. Instead, you should think of like, what can I do that's ridiculously better than I could do live? Like, what are the superpowers that this gives you, right? Like, what can I do on video that I couldn't do without it, that could make me much more engaging, than ever? And that, and you can't do that for everything. Not every aspect of life lends itself to that, but many, 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 many do. And so I think like the best teachers, for example, who are using this are the ones that have kind of had the realization that like, well, no, my bar isn't to like, as a temporary stopgap measure, get like 80% as good at teaching as I was in person. It's like, how do I immediately get to 200% as good? And some things will be worse, but many things will be better. because I can do things that, that I couldn't do before to keep people's attention, to make it interactive. So a big part of it is just that, right? It's that philosophy of IRL plus, of just saying, it isn't about making something almost as good. It's like figuring out what's better in this new world.
Yeah, it really is two different experiences. I think a lot of people, like you said, have been trying to say, well, this is what I do in person. How do I make that work online? And I
Right.
think a lot of us need to sort of abandon that and think about like, they're two different experiences, two different
Yeah.
sets of tools. There's things you can do in real life that we all ache for and miss that are lovely.
Yeah.
But there's things you can do online that are just completely different.
Yeah. And exactly. And they're not meant to replace each other. Um, and I think like most people most people just give up. They're just like, well,
Mm,
this sucks. I'm just gonna like not care.
mm.
Some people try to problem solve. They try to say, okay, well, what are the problems with doing this online, and how do I solve those problems? And that's important. And we obviously try to do that too. But even more important than problem solving is like understanding what are the new superpowers, what are the things that you could never do before that now you can do, and how do you lean into those?
So, what are
Right?
some of these superpowers that you are alluding to? Can you give people some like hands-on tricks?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. So a very like an almost frivolous thing, but I think it's a cool example. Is we have something called big hands mode. So we do gesture detection. So if I like, if I make like an emoji
Oh my
heart with my
gosh.
hands, like I get a heart. If I have like an anonymous box in a Zoom call and someone is like saying something that I really like or I want to agree with something, I can just do thumbs up, big green Hulk thumb, or
Wow.
thumbs down, and that kind of stuff. And it's simple, but it's kind of important, right? Because like the next time I'm in an in-person meeting, uh, which I don't know, hopefully will be at some point in the next few months. But the next time I'm in a person meeting and someone is saying something and I want to show like how much I love what they're saying, and I like hold up my hands and I don't get a giant heart, right? I'm gonna turn this mode off, right? I'm like do this, and I'll be like, wait, what? Like
Oh, it's
the
so
hell?
underwhelming
Why?
now. It's just
Yeah,
regular hands.
yeah. What? I don't want like I never want to see when I do a thumbs up. I never want to see like puny, bony human thumb, right? Like I always want to see giant Hulk thumb.
Giant Hulk
This is
thumb.
better.
Yeah.
And most of us just haven't had the experience of anything on video being significantly better, and so we just don't know to expect this. So like you said, we miss all these things about like in-person reality, but there's nothing we miss on video because most of our experiences on video have been miserable. So you start
Mm-hmm.
having like non-miserable and even sometimes magical experiences on video, and you're gonna start missing that. And
Yeah.
then the happy medium is to like find, well, okay, what's better in person? You do that in person, and what's better on video? And we do that in video. So like Big Hands is obviously a small example. Slides are a great example, right? The idea that I can just type in, I can type something in and then have it automatically change and adapt to my environment. Like
Mm.
I can't do that in real life. That's pretty cool. The fact that if I'm showing like a big slide, I can say I have like an old-fashioned PowerPoint slide like this, I could show it over my shoulder, and I don't have to ask people to like split their attention
Mm.
looking at me and looking at my material. Or I can like, I can go full screen, and I can like, I can shrink, and I can I can shrink down and fly around, and I can say, I can to become blue Jedi ghost, and point to things this way and say, I
Yeah, that
think
is better
that,
than real life. I
you know,
definitely would prefer to be a blue Jedi ghost than
right? Like I
regular
usually
old
do.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And
amazing.
and but this is also like cognitively that's important, right? If I'm trying to teach this, if I'm trying to present, and I'm always like exactly in the right place, and I could be pointing at things, and I could be saying like, look, it's this one, and then I like fly over and I say 55%, like
Yeah. And
this
the
is
thing that
stuff.
I want folks to know is that I'm a newbie for I downloaded it a couple of weeks ago and I've just started playing around with it. So I'm keeping it kind of simple and letting Phil show off all the amazing bells and whistles. But even just initially playing around with it, like I know the things that you're clicking and how you're doing that. And it's a lot less intimidating than some other softwares that I've tried to use. I think you and the team have done such a good job of making it really user friendly. And so for folks who are dialing in saying, can we see what it looks like in action? Like this is it. Like we're using it and it's got a ton of different features. I have a really simple setup. Phil's obviously showing you some of the amazing things that it can do. I don't have a green screen. This is just my house. Are you in front of a green screen? I know a few folks have been
Yeah, I am.
asking.
I am right now. Well, it's just a sheet. It's not like an actual screen You just have like
Just,
like
is it
a
a green
sheet.
sheet or is it a regular sheet?
It can be any color as long as it's solid color that's different from my skin, which is going to be a problem because I am naturally becoming greener and greener the more time I spend inside. So at some point, I'm going to need to change the sheet. But yeah, but I can also, but I use about this half the time. The way I've got my home office set up is I can rotate my desk 90 degrees, and then I'm looking at my actual wall.
That's smart.
So sometimes, sometimes I do this, and sometimes here I'll show you guys.
He's got to be right back.
I'm going to rotate my desk around. This is just so people don't get dizzy as the camera swings around. I bought the world's cheapest standing desk because it's like lightweight and it's on casters, and so it's like easy to.
That's smart. Easy. I'm still sitting. I know they say sitting is the new smoking, so gotta fix that soon.
Yeah. So like, so there we go. So that's my actual office, and even here, like what you're doing, right? So I can make it like, I can make it kind of full screen like this, but I can still do. I can still show slides. I can still, we have Giphy integration, for example. So I can still say, here, let's pull up a giant taco. Ooh, I don't know why I went into that.
I love that.
Here we go.
I saw a few folks ask earlier about like event setup. I will say a couple of weeks ago, we did a whole webinar on live streaming. We talked about different technologies you can use, and we talked about some of the basics of having a good setup. And Phil and I were chatting about this last time we connected, where you can never underestimate the power of good lighting, like getting a couple of like ring lights and making sure you have a good connection. I'm using an external microphone. So we won't dive into sort of the broader tech of live streaming, but if you go to after this, you can check out the Eventbrite YouTube channel has one where we had a host from Elevated Stream talking a lot about all the different ways to boost up your stream. But you know what he didn't talk about was flying tacos.
Yeah, not some of the objects in this scene are real, and some are rendered, and who can tell?
That's starting to make me question reality in a way that I'm finding sort of alarming.
Yeah, I can still do like it was actually just a giant thunderstorm. I'm in Arkansas right now, so there's like all of this kind of stuff still works. Slides work, so I can layer in whatever the performance aspect I want. I can be in here. I like this like old timey movie with a flying taco in my real room, mode. And then this is this thing is my actual. This is the first toy I ever owned. His name is Monkey. Had Monkey since I was 0 years old. So
and now he's taking part in your live streams.
Yeah, wow. In the live stream with the giant taco, who's a brand new. The giant taco is new. Monkey's been around forever. But,
this is a key takeaway for everyone. I hope everyone's taking notes. You need to get a puppet, preferably a monkey from a long time ago.
1972.
1972.
Yeah, Soviet vintage 1972 monkey.
That's incredible. You made me think of something. Oh, I think one of the things that we're sort of touching on a lot inherently is the fact that a lot of us are tired. We have, Zoom fatigue is the new thing that you hear in the world. And we are actually using Zoom and it's compatible with it. So it's a great tool. But I think what it's alluding to is the fact that our eyes are tired. And one of the best things you can do to increase or improve your virtual event is just to have something visually dynamic, something interesting, something that is a little bit of a breath of fresh air for your attendees. Is obviously a great way to do that. But thinking about any way to sort of incorporate a change for folks is a great way to keep people awake during your events.
Yeah, I mean, we think of it as, Nike used to have this slogan, everyone's an athlete. That was Nike's slogan. I remember like hearing that slogan and being like, I am not an athlete. They're not talking about me. But that was their philosophy. And I think like our kind of unofficial slogan is that everyone's a performer. All of us have these like micro performances, sometimes not micro, sometimes pretty macro, during a day where we're just like, hey, attention on me, I'm doing a bit right now. And sometimes you're doing that for our employees or for our kids or for our investors or for our team members or whoever, right? For, I don't know, social media followers, whatever those are. And I think like a lot of people haven't internalized that we are all performing, because before we all went on video, you could pretend that you weren't. Some people understood it, but like all of us in person were performing. If I was giving a presentation in a meeting, like, I'm obviously every teacher knows that they're also a performer, and you have to be a decent performer to be effective. But the performance styles all changed when we went on video. And those of us who never thought of ourselves as performers before are completely adrift. And I think just that realization that like all you have to do is be not boring. Like you owe that to whoever you're talking to, just like you did in real life. in real life, you owe it to whoever you're talking to not bore them to sleep. And you do on video as well. And you just have to think about it. And what are the tools and how do I do it?
Yeah.
And doesn't magically do that for you. It's still about you, but we give you a new vocabulary and a new tool set that's kind of fun to use.
Yeah, and that kind of tees us up well. I know we're seeing some amazing questions come into the chat, so I'm going to try to capture some of these and get to them towards the end and
You
sprinkle in
rotate
a
my
couple
desk
right
back.
is sprinkling a couple right now. As Phil changes his desk back, I'll say you sort of touched on the fact that like obviously is one tool that you can use and it's great, but some of the overarching best practices for interactivity for live events is really finding ways for it to become less of just a talking head, and making it more participatory. We've seen a lot of event creators have huge success using tools that have a chat function like this, not only so that you can interact, but so that attendees can interact with each other. If you were at a live event, you might be standing in the audience with someone or at a class with someone sharing information. And it's so great. I love it when I see folks answering each other's questions and chiming in. And then some of the other things is using the in-product tools for participation. There are some great services that have survey options so that folks feel engaged and are giving a voice to what they're doing. You can obviously have things like breakout rooms and bring people off mute and ask them questions. It's a great way to keep people on their toes when you might be called onto stage to interact with the host during an event. So we're showing one really great visual tool for this, but at the core of it, like Phil said, you have to think about your audience, think about the kind of content that you're delivering, and then find opportunities to make it more of what we call a lean in experience so that folks feel really present and active in the event.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a bunch of little like small tips that, if you're willing to put in just a little bit of effort, you can make it better. Like what I found for myself, this is different for different people. For me, it turns out I'm a lot less boring when I'm standing up than when I'm sitting down. So I stand. So again, I bought this like $300 standing desk, and most of the time I'm standing. And I kind of like, I can pace around. I kind of have my holodeck over here, and things change. And like I just like my own brain sees that as being like better. Like I'm kind of tired of. I think all of us are tired of looking at ourselves on Zoom. I think
Yes.
it's like looking at yourself is like more exhausting than anything else. So
yeah, there's
at
some
least
actual
it ought to be
studies
like
that I've
interesting.
read about that. Yeah, where it's like you constantly are checking yourself to make sure you're giving visual cues, and it's a little bit of an energy drain.
Yeah. I think that's right. So like I've kind of stopped doing that. The lighting is super important for me. Standing up is pretty important. There's lots of these things, but it all kind of comes from just thinking about, okay, how do I make it better than it could have achieved before?
Yeah.
Like when I teach a class now, I'll occasionally teach classes about, I don't know, entrepreneurship, because that's all anyone ever wants me to talk about is blah blah blah, how to be an entrepreneur. Short answer: don't. Just
Don't do it.
don't do it.
Okay.
But
Ooh,
save yourself.
that
Save
sounds like another
yourself.
webinar. We'll follow up with more information on why
Yeah.
you should not be an entrepreneur.
But like when and I used to teach all sorts of classes about this at various colleges, and when after the pandemic started, I had to switch to doing it on video. At first, I was like, oh man, like I've got a whole routine that I do in person, like it's going to suck on video. Um, but then I realized like, well, okay, yeah, I'm just not going to do the same thing. I'm going to do something different, but it's going to be so much better on video than it was in person. And now it is, because I put together slides. I've got like a whole thing. It's much more like there's much more information being displayed. And right now, like if you had a choice between hearing me like, give a lecture in person or doing it online, like you should choose to do it online. I'm better on video than I am
Wow,
in
that's
person because
interesting.
of like I've used all of these techniques that I just didn't have before, and we're starting to hear that. Like
Yeah.
the best email I've gotten in the past like couple of months was from an early user who just said hey, I don't have to give a discount anymore for my public speeches when I do them on video. And like, so he's a public speaker, that's how he makes money.
Yeah.
And when he started doing it on video, like who wants public speakers on video? So you have to give like steep discounts, and now he doesn't anymore. So now he charges the same for a video speech as he used to in person, and he gets it because like he's better on video because he can do all of this stuff before. And obviously, like there's no travel and like
Yeah.
it's charging the
Well,
same on video actually winds up being far more lucrative than than having to do it in person. So that's the mentality, is like be
yeah.
better on video, better than you were without it.
We're seeing a ton of that too. I think, folks at first were giving away live experiences for free because we were all just desperate for connection. Like you said, there was a lot of fear early in the pandemic. But I think as event creators have leveled up what they're offering, they've realized that virtual experiences have value. And we've seen through a ton of data, we've got some webinars that you can check out that we've done before on pricing, and we've done some research. Like attendees are willing to pay for events, things between $7 and $25 are a pretty common fee that people are like, yeah, if it's an engaging experience and I'm going to walk away learning something, like that still has value, even though it's online. So it's the same thing with speakers. And I think, a tool like this helps you feel like your value is more evident and gives people a little more confidence. We're getting a ton of requests for folks who want to see how you're doing what you're doing. Can you screen share to show a little bit of the toggles, or is that tricky? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, yeah. So product is live, so anyone can just well, on the Mac it's fully available. So just it's at that app. So you can go and check it out and download it and see. We actually just released a whole bunch of tutorials that
And I know you have a Windows beta as well for
and we have,
any
and Windows
non-Mac
is open
users.
beta, so you can go and use it on Windows as well. I can show. I think I've got like I can't do an actual screen share because then you get that like rip in the time space continuum of
Oh,
like
yes,
like
the
when you use the
forever
point.
fill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like there's like way too much fill. But but I think I've got some pictures that I can show.
Cool.
Uh,
And there's a few people, and as you're kind of toggling this, who have asked, like, can you add your own logo? I'm going to wiggle it around to see if you can
Boom,
see
there we
it.
go.
I
Here's
added this logo here. You can customize everything with your own images and videos. Phil will show you a little more of what it looks like. Oh yeah, there you go.
yeah. So this is what I'm seeing, and it's pretty straightforward, basically. Like this is the literal window. Down here is the slide tray. So if I'm just clicking next before to kind of advance the slides, and over here, these are like buttons to make new slides. And then on the right is these are rooms. So if I click on these, I switch rooms, and we have this really nice like room catalog that has hundreds of like really nice rooms, or you can use your own. And then or I can switch over and use like the tools. So these are all like, if I click on, for example, like this little raindrop here, like that happens, or this is the the neon mode, or it's an old-fashioned old-timey movie mode. And then I can also like shrink and grow and fade. So if I'm like, basically what I'm doing now is I'm just turn off the old-timey movie mode. I've got a trackpad, and so I'm just sliding two fingers on the trackpad, and like
Wow.
go
And
like
then
that,
for,
or I can
teachers
like
or
this.
presenters who are adding their own decks. Oh my gosh, you're tiny.
Yeah, yeah.
Where do folks add their own images?
Yeah, you just drag in your own images, and or so, well, for rooms, you can add your own image or video as a room, or you can use any of ours, and ours are like customized, so they're more than just like flat images. There's a lot of activity to ours, so we have stuff that's that's just a kind of a richer experience just adding your own. So for example, like a kind of like let's see, like that one's not bad. I'll find my favorite one. My favorite one, like in the beginning, was well, some of them are like, we have stuff like this that's like that has like slight motion, which is pretty cool, or like more dramatic stuff if you want, or if you want to have a press conference, this kind of stuff. This is
fascinating.
Kind of neat.
It's like a person in space, but not.
Yeah, we have plenty. We have lots of people in space rooms. I sort of like this one. This one is nice and calming. And then the themes are different, right? So if I say, if I'm like in this kind of a room, and I put up a slide, like it'll be in a, it'll be like in a neon font. But if I switch to something else, it'll move. And then a bunch of these. This one is called Paper World. This isn't a movie. This is all dynamic, so I can adjust like the speed of. I can like slow everything down. I can like adjust. I can make everything faster. You can like get like more ducks or fewer ducks. Or and the
Customizable
idea is that
ducks.
these could be reactive. So
Yeah.
you could customize all of these to be kind of exactly right. I think it's like too fast. So.
Are folks able to upload videos and sound, or is it primarily visual right now?
Yeah, you could play movie clips, kind of going back and forth seamlessly between doing something live and playing a clip is really important. That's a thing it's hard to do in real life. But,
Yeah, it's even hard to do in Zoom. Like if I'm presenting at a meeting at work and I'm pulling up like a Google slide that has a video, I will sometimes struggle to make sure it all feels very smooth because again, like it takes a little bit of that mental distraction from the presenter to have that be a really easy click through.
Mhm.
Uh, Someone
Yeah.
asked if the thumbs up option is not available on Mac OS. I know we have a couple of great team members in here answering some questions.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
the big hands is you need to be on Big Sur, which is kind of the latest Mac operating system. So if you because we're just using they both have the word big in them. We just can't. We needed
so
to.
we decided
You don't want to
the
write the word
agreement.
big ourselves. Yeah, so that's how it works. So you need
Amazing.
to be on a relatively recent operating system on the Mac for it to work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but there's always going to be stuff like that. Like there's a pretty big palette of tools, and depending on what your setup is, some things will work better than others. But you can always the mentality that you should go into these things with is, you know, I'm going to make this better than I could have done it in real life, and then you find a way to do it.
That's so fun. I think that makes the challenge a lot more positive because I think a lot of us have been like, how do I make this not painful, both for myself and for my event goers? And now that a lot of us have our sea legs underneath us in terms of, okay, I feel set up with my technology, I feel set up with my live event setup, I feel a little bit better about talking to the camera. Now it's sort of taking it to that next level. Um, so in We've talked a little about one of the ways of engagement is to get people talking to each other, either in chats or in breakout rooms. Um, how have you seen people use in breakout rooms? Is that usually the speaker has it and the attendees don't, or are there some kind of tips and tricks to incorporate some of the great features?
Yeah, so the way that it works right now is we work on top of whatever video service you're using. So the idea is not everyone has to be running only the people who want to do the cool stuff. So usually the speakers will run it. And then if there's people in the audience that want to be on camera and they want to do cool stuff, that they can run it. But it doesn't we don't currently, although it's something we're thinking about, provide the actual like infrastructure for how you do a breakout room or who you're talking to. Like you're just using whatever, excuse me, you're just using whatever service that you would, that you currently use.
Hmm.
We actually
It
just
just
did
kind
some
of is a layer on your camera, and then
layering
you
on the
are
camera.
using a different streaming technology. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So like we just did some user interviews and some user panels, which we kind of do all the time to just make sure that we're making things that people understand. And one of my favorite comments from one of the users was, she said, so it's still everyone is still in their individual Zoom box, but my box is going to be the best.
I
Yeah,
love that.
that's kind of what it's like. Yeah, you're still in your little Zoom box, but you've got the coolest Zoom box.
Yeah, I think even if you're not the main event creator or speaker, that's a great way to sort of make your work environment or your team environments more interesting. And in terms of it layering on top of pretty much, it is your camera and it works with everything. I think a few people have asked about StreamYard and if it works for StreamYard or Restream, OBS.
Yeah, it works with just about everything. I've definitely used it with StreamYard, with Hopin. If you're using a browser-based um, service, it usually works better on Chrome than in Safari. Just like everything with video, like Safari for some reason it's just not great with
Yeah,
video. But if you're using Chrome, then I've never had it not work with something in Chrome.
cool. So I think that's a call out to our attendees. If you ever bump into one that doesn't work, let the team know so they can add that to their list.
Definitely, yeah, please.
Um, we've had some really awesome questions. Hopefully, we tried to tackle a lot of the big ones. We will be sending a follow up email. So, for folks who either dialed in late or had to duck out early, we're going to go ahead and set a follow up that will have a link to the whole conversation, as well as a place where you can go learn a little bit more about and some resources that I referenced in the call around live streaming tips in general, and also some more upcoming events where you can learn more about event creation. I think we have about a few more minutes. So, do we have any last minute questions where folks want to chime in? Any more sort of nuggets of wisdom that we didn't touch on for you while we wait for some questions to pop up?
Well, one of the things that I wind up doing kind of all the time in this is I'll share my various devices and screens. So you can share kind of any, any app, any device. So here, like for example, this is go. Let's do, ah, there we go. So like that's my live phone. Okay, see, this is
Oh,
like
wow.
the actual phone. I've got 142,000 unread emails.
Oh, that gives me a little bit of anxiety, Phil.
Yeah, so it's a good way to do, to do phone demos, to if you're working a website or something, with a team, you can show it on a phone or a desktop browser. You could just as easily, do a screen share.
Mm.
With anything else, I've got it set up with a couple of cameras. So I was actually experimenting with having a physical. At first, what I was doing was sharing my iPad, and then drawing on it. Right, so I could draw on the iPad, and that would appear. So I could kind of do Telestrator style stuff. One of our team members has a physical whiteboard just in the corner of the room with a second camera pointing at it, and so he can at any point just like walk over to the whiteboard and start drawing, and
I
like we've got a
miss
close up
physical
camera,
whiteboarding.
yeah, on the whiteboard. Yeah, there's something cool to it. So
Yeah,
I think
there's, for tactile experiences that we don't have online, that's one that I think I miss a lot.
I think that's right, and I think that's like the philosophy of this is just like that. Everything is going to be, everything's going to be hybrid. Like we just want, like think about where you can layer in video on top of physical objects and physical life that just makes it more delightful,
Mm.
better.
Yeah, hybrid is it's a word that's coming up a lot. And I think, one thing that I'll offer to some event creators here who are using Eventbrite for their events or maybe thinking about it, we've seen so much power even as we return to live events. In virtual events, people have been able to expand to global audiences. They've been able to connect with folks who were not able to come to events physically before. As Phil mentioned, it's IRL plus. There's some things you can do online that you couldn't do when you were in person. And so I would just offer that I think you don't have to know all of the answers or figure out all the tech solutions. Adding virtual events to whatever business or process that you're working on is a great addition, and you can keep doing it. Even I think after we all go back to in real life things, I think this is going to stick. Like people will continue to do virtual events. Like your friend who is the speaker, that's such a great way to go to a thing that you couldn't physically get to. Like if someone in Japan wanted to book him in 24 hours, he wouldn't be able to physically go there, but he could still be a speaker by utilizing online events.
Yeah, and I think the IRL plus concept. Like I've been trying to adopt this to just use it myself in like lots of areas of my life as the world opens back up. So, I think we all went for the past year of being on video because we had to be.
Hmm.
And over the next few months, like we're going to be on video when we want to be because it's better. So for example, I'm on a couple of boards, and I was having obviously all of our board meetings have been virtual for the past, year. And they're pretty good. Like it actually turns out that doing a board meeting virtually is like actually good for the information transfer part. So I was talking to one of my fellow board member, and they were saying, well, now that like when we get fully vaccinated in a couple of months, like maybe in the summer for the board meeting, we should actually just like all fly in together so we can like do the meeting in person and then like go out for dinner, and we haven't seen each other in a long time and like bond. And I kind of said, well, I'm happy to fly in to have dinner with you because I totally agree. Like, yeah, we need to go and have like a good dinner, and that's important. But I don't want to have the meeting in person because like the meeting is actually better for me. I want to have the meeting with my two big monitors with all the information, with being able to rewind, being able to time shift. Like, I don't want to sit in a physical room and pass papers around like we used to. That wasn't as effective. So why don't we do the meeting the way we have been for the past year, which is online, which I think we all like. And then, yeah, let's get together in person for the dinner and the drinks. And like,
Yeah.
let's make it an even better dinner and drinks than normally, because like, that's all we're doing it for. And it doesn't have to be on the same day. Like, why don't we just decouple those things?
Yeah,
And I
do the
think that's
thing
the
in
philosophy.
person that feels good in person
Yeah.
because that's the experience that you're after. But keep utilizing like all these things that we've unlocked by
Right.
doing virtual events.
Yeah. And like we're working with a couple of universities. And one is we're kind of saying, okay, well, if we're working with a medical school, and they want to have like, okay, well, what makes sense to do online and what doesn't? And we kind of thought, all right, well, the lecture portion, when you are like receiving information in a lecture, like that's much better being done online And not only online, but not live. Like that ought to be
Mm.
asynchronous. Because why should everyone have to like wake up at the same time and sit in the same small room? Like that's just obviously inefficient and expensive. And why does everyone have to listen at the same rate?
Mm.
Like I can probably listen at a different rate and absorb information than somebody else can. I can rewind. So obviously the actual like knowledge transfer, the lecture portion, ought to be online, pre-recorded, fully dynamic. I can rewind, I can get slides, all of the stuff. We call that interactive recordings. And then the portion where we're like asking questions, the actual discussion, that should still be online, but that should be live. So we should transition from online asynchronous for the knowledge transfer, and then for the lecture, and then for the Q&A session, we should be online, because it's pointless like trying to get everyone into the same room, but live, so that we can have a faster give and take. But then like for the labs portion, or for like, if I actually need to go and like take care of patients, or dissect a body or something, like, yeah, that should be live and in person, because like I need to physically do that. So
Yeah.
you take something like a medical education, and again, you just say IRL plus. What's better in person? You do it in person. What's better online asynchronous? And a lot of things are, you do it online and asynchronous. And what's better online but synchronous? And you do it online and synchronous. And then for every important experience in life, now we don't have to like do everything in the same way. We can combine these three different buckets to make it, cheaper, more accessible, higher quality. And
Yeah.
once I started thinking about it like that, there's very few things that I can't imagine being improved by having some of it done online and asynchronously, and some of it online and synchronously, and some of it in person. Like literally almost everything, including like going out to eat at a restaurant. Like
Yeah.
actually, obviously the food portion I want to do in person and there, but I would actually love to like find out more about it and think about what I'm going to order, and kind of do like a nice online interactive version of the menu, like before I get it. That would be cool. I'm
Oh, I'm
already
fully
making,
one of those people. I Google the menu before I go to the restaurant because I
yeah.
get excited about it.
So let's like make that like an official part of the
Yeah.
experience. And the same thing for events, right? So if we're going to have an event, and it's going to be in person, okay, great. But like figure out, why are you doing it in person, and only do the things that are better in person, and the things that are better virtually, do it virtually, and have it all be in the same part of the same experience.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I think that's exactly it. This webinar here tonight was focused on today, depending on where you are in the world, on better video, because that is a component of these new virtual events. You need to be engaging. We need to figure out how to go past the sort of blank square. But I think what we've unlocked is it's also going to help us have better in-person experiences, because we're going to be a lot more intentional about what platform we're using and why, and really saving those in-person experiences for the ones that are super meaningful. For me, it's live music. I can't wait to get in front of just a band and a really intense thing that's ruining my ears, like a bass drum. But that's something that I can't experience online. However, getting to see some of these behind the scenes conversations with artists that I've had access to has been something that I wouldn't have had without these virtual events. So there's going to be such a really interesting return to the live event industry. And I'm so excited that has created this tool that's allowing people to, I think, present in a way that simply wasn't possible without a whole production team.
Well, you know what I want? Like next time I go to a live event, it's been a while, but like I used to go to, a bunch of them. So the next time I go to a live event, it's usually a combination of like, there's like some talks, and then there's like, hanging out. And so like I'll go to whatever resort the live event is, I think, in the future. But I would actually like, for the actual talks, for the sessions where I'm just like sitting in a dark room in the audience and there's like a speaker and I have to like strain to see them, I'll just do that from my hotel room with my laptop.
Yeah.
That's a better experience. Like I'd rather do it so they have, big hands and I see slides and I can time shift. Like even if I'm there, I'd probably like that portion I'd rather do in my hotel room.
Yeah.
And then yeah, as soon as it's time for like lunch and it's time to like go and hang out and like mingle or like get drinks, yeah, then I'll show up. So I think even if I'm physically travel to a place, it doesn't mean I want to sit in a dingy room in an uncomfortable chair. I'd rather for the purposes of like ingesting some information, I can do that online, and then I can do the in-person parts in person.
Yeah. And, I think diversity is so important. I'm a big fan of dingy rooms. So you and I can occupy different spaces in that way. And that's like what it's going to be all about. I'm going to close it out. We have two questions. We have some folks asking about presets to help people understand how easy it is to collaborate. And then a few people have asked about the name. So I think we'll use those two questions and then we'll close things out for the day and follow up with everyone via email. But tell us a little bit about presets and then the mystery behind the name.
Well, so presets are really straightforward. So basically, on the Mac, the way it works is you can customize everything, and then you can pin all of your settings, your room, how big you are, everything, to each slide. And then when you change slides, it'll like automatically jump. It'll just rearrange everything kind of automatically to those presets. So I can say like, here, let's say I want to be like, when I get to this room, let's say I want to be, you know, a blue Jedi ghost, and I want to immediately put myself like over here. Okay. But, you know, otherwise I want to be like in this room. So I can be talking, blah, 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 next slide. And like, you know, I'm here. And then, you know, and then next slide and I'm gone. So I don't like, you saw me doing a bunch of like the puppetry, not with a monkey, like the digital puppetry live as I'm doing it, because it's like, it's kind of fun. But obviously, like if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to like see, you know, have people see all the motions and the imperfections, which sometimes you do, sometimes that's like kind of part of the charm. And sometimes you don't, you want to be like more polished, then yeah, then I just use presets for that. And for the name, I'll tell you. Actually, this is a good example of like shifting a little bit between you know, what's good to do live and what's not. I recorded a video about this on our website. I say, you know, a lot of people ask about why we do why we call it So I thought I would explain the name, and while I'm at it, I'm going to demo this feature called interactive recordings. So anyway, normally when people ask me why, all right, can you still hear me? My microphone fritzed out.
I can hear you, yeah.
Normally when people ask me why I called it I say because it's important to have a name that you can say while eating. And you know, haha, that's true, but there's actually many other fake jokey reasons for why we called it so I thought I would share some with you. So here we go, 5 reasons why the company is called Reason number 1 is I like palindromes. I cannot lie. Reason number 2 is the word is currently not understood by any of the AI voice assistants. So it's probably good for privacy. Reason number 3 for why we called it is we save a lot of money on vowels. Just ask your parents what that means. Reason number 4 is when SAP tries to copy us, they're going to have to call it SAP Meh for enterprise. I'm just joking. Much respect, SAP. Please don't destroy us. And the number 1 fake reason why we called it couldn't figure out how to spell mwah. Right? So like, what I just did there is an important thing.
That was, and I didn't expect you to do that. I didn't know it was coming, and I loved it.
But yeah, so like you can see if I'm like teaching a class how I could start out, you know, I start out live and I'm like, good morning, look at the weather we're having. How about the sports ball? Whatever humans say at the beginning of meetings, which I can never quite get right. You know, we'll do that stuff. But then like when I'm launching into my thing, like I can just hit play. And by the way, like I'm watching you watching me as I do this. Right? Like I can see you watching me. So I can interrupt at any point and like redirect or whatever. And I'm not trying to be deceptive. Like my beard looks different and I'm wearing a different shirt. So like, it's fine. If I wanted it to be seamless, then I would just think a little bit more about the continuity, but I don't. So it works out.
Yeah, that was amazing. And I'm so excited. I think a lot of folks here are already users, and they're sort of telling people about their experiences, which is bringing me a lot of joy. So thank you all for sharing your knowledge and contributing to this conversation. We will be sending a follow-up email. And I know early in the event, someone asked, how do we do what you're doing in terms of, we used Eventbrite as a listing page. We sent out an invite, and then we used Zoom to live stream to YouTube using our cameras. So we have a whole bunch of different technologies at play here that are all working pretty seamlessly together. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a tech whiz and I was able to figure it out on my own. So we'll send you a little link to more information about how you could do something like this, where you got an RSVP and you actually got kicked right over to the Eventbrite page where you could watch there, or you could come to YouTube to participate in the chat. There's a ton of amazing opportunities and tools tools. If you are already doing live events, I'm so excited to see how you up level and make it more engaging with If you are thinking about embarking on your first one, what I would tell you is don't wait, just do it. You're going to learn as you go. It's going to feel intimidating, and then it's going to be really exciting. So thank you so much for joining us today. Phil, thank you for your time, for all of your wisdom, for your puppets. This was a really fun conversation.
Thank you. And I think we set up a special training session just for people in the Eventbrite community. So
yes.
I think,
can you tell us when that's happening, or are we going to include information in the follow-up email?
I think my notes say that it's next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Perfect.
But I think we'll follow up. But yeah, if anyone wants custom training on this stuff, our team will do that next week.
That's great. Yeah, I know people want to see a little bit more about how to toggle between things. We were talking at a high level about how to have better virtual events, and then you'll get the insights into how to be a Blue Jedi and other important things. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much. Have a great night.
Take care. Bye.